What is up, Squared Nation? Welcome back to No Counters, No Combos, and today we're actually going to be going over our SS4 Xeno Goku deck profile. I'm going to be doing deck profiles a little bit differently on the channel moving forward. I'll probably go over the leader first and then show you guys the deck, just so there's not too much going on and I can get enough of an explanation in, especially for certain leaders that might need more explaining than others. But if you guys have been tuning into our streams recently, you've seen that I've piloted SS4 Xeno Goku 2 weeks in a row, which is very rare for me to play the same deck 2 weeks in a row. But I really do think this leader has some promise, especially moving into a predominantly yellow format with set 16. So let's go over the leader first. We have Son Goku. He's a 10k attacker on the front. Auto burst 3. When this card attacks, add up to 1 card from your life to your hand, then draw 1 card. Awaken. When your life is at 4 or less, you may draw 1 card, switch up to 1 of your energy to active mode, then flip this card over. Pretty basic. I do like the fact it's a self-awakening leader, so you can kind of control when you flip. Auto burst 3 is nice because you're a Black Saiyan leader, so you do get advantages when doing that. Obviously, it's a pretty basic overwhelm strategy for the most part. There are some pretty powerful cards sprinkled in here, as we'll get into when we visit the deck profile itself. This isn't probably the final build. I'm still going through some tweaks, and there's definitely some interesting choices, but I'm sure we'll get into it as we go through the deck itself. When you awaken your SS4 Goku, Guardian of History, he's got inherent Double Strike, which is really nice. Double Strike is essentially his permanent. You can't shut it off unless you activate something that says shut your leader skills off. But having that Double Strike on the back is a lot of pressure because your opponent is going to have to deal with that somehow. Either A, they're going to have to combo out of it, or they're going to have to negate it because it's an oncoming Double Strike. It's not a gotcha like Champa or anything like that. It's it's coming, so you have to deal with it. Permanent. During your turn, this card gets plus 5k power for every 8 battle cards in the warp, which is a nice balancing effect, but, it is possible to get, 16 cards in warp to make this guy 25k base Double Strike, which is nice. Once per turn, activate main. You can place up to 4 black battle cards from your warp in your drop area, then draw 1 card. So it is nice. Some passive advantage is always nice. You can choose up to 4, so you don't have to choose 4. You could choose 0. You could choose 1. If you want to keep your overwhelm or if you want to keep your warp pretty heavy for your double striker or for your power buff on the leader or for some of your plays. But if you want to go ahead and make an overwhelm play, you don't have enough in drop to facilitate that overwhelm, you're going to go ahead and use that effect to get you there. So that's pretty much what the leader does. Now let's get into the main deck. All right, so as you can see, there's a lot of different things going on in this deck. Secret rare choice for me is Heroine's Lineage. I just really like this card. I like the flexibility of it. I like that you can kind of stop, your opponent's play. You're not really playing super defensive in this deck. It's all gas essentially. There's a couple of good defensive options, but it's not defensive in the traditional sense. So I do like Heroine's Lineage as like a backup plan in case something goes utterly wrong. I have something there to kind of, get me to that state. 2 petrifications. I think it's the best black negate that we have right now. It stops attack autos like that are impending. It stops them from going off, so it's really nice. And it's kind of like it just kind of like stops, like legit like stops plays. If your opponent has threats on board and you want to target specific things, you can stop their oncoming attack and then go ahead and choose one of their other battle cards and just stop them from playing or stop them from doing anything. So it's really nice. Obviously, you're in black, so you're going to have access to a bunch of different things, but I think petrification is really nice. I'm toying with 2. I think 3 is okay. I have 1 in the sideboard, which is all preference, but in the main deck for right now, I'm sitting at 50 cards. I have petrification at 2. Super combo of choice is going to be your Vegeta super combo, simply because he's a bottom deck draw 2. You're playing mono black energy. There's no reason for you not to play him, and believe it or not, he's also a Union Fusion target for thwartings. We're playing 3 of Supreme Kai of Time Labyrinth Unleashed. I like this card a lot. You are playing a burst strategy, so there's not many times where you're going to successfully see this card, which is why I'm playing 3. I think 4 is way too much. If you can resolve 1 per game, I think that's really good. Having a built-in, like, she stops 2 attacks, essentially. If your opponent is going any type of wide, you can go ahead and negate the oncoming attack and then just warp one of their battle cards. That's problematic. It gets around stuff like Indestructible, because Indestructible, it can't be removed from the battle area. But oh, actually, no, it wouldn't get around Indestructible. I apologize. I'm mixing up an interaction that I had with something during one of my matches against Launch. I was able to get rid of their Deity's Wrath target before he actually hit the board. So it doesn't get around Indestructible. Indestructible can't be removed from the battle area by skills, so that's still something to take into consideration there. But Petrification does get around Indestructible. We are playing our Time Agents, so we do have 4 Kais, we do have 4 Vegetas, and we do have 4 Trunks. As you can see, I'm skipping around a little bit here. But these guys are just plain and simple. If they're bursted off the top of the deck because you have a Black Saiyan leader, they come into play. Vegeta's nice, 19k pressure. Just a really good battle card for free. 19k pressure is nothing to sneeze at. His Activate Battle is okay. Tapping 2 energy to warp one of your opponent's battle cards 3 or less during Activate Battle is not too bad. Doesn't come up very often. It's so easy to play around, but having it there is better than not having it, I guess. And then Trunks is really nice too, because it gets you that extra life when you really need to awaken, if you need to, and you're sitting at 5 or 6. And it's a blocker. So again, you're not being progressively defensive in this deck. You're being kind of more reactively defensive, and Trunks is one of those cards that filters into that strategy. Unfortunately, Vegeta being a 19k, he is not a Union Fusion target for thwarting, but it's one of those cards that you mill into play for free, so there's really no downside to it. MVP of the deck by far is Demon God Demigra, the Power Unleashed. True Power Unleashed, rather. This guy is a monster. 30k attacker, Dark Overwhelm for 5. You always want to play this guy for Dark Overwhelm. You never want to play this guy for regular Overwhelm. Dark Overwhelm sticks on the board. So the fact that you have the option of doing either 2, I don't know why they gave you the option, especially because there's no benefit to playing it Overwhelm unless you need to play it to activate something else that needs you to Overwhelm, I guess. Like if you're playing the Supreme Kai of Time deck, she needs to have cards Overwhelmed, not Dark Overwhelmed, I guess. But you always want to play this guy for 2 energy for Dark Overwhelm because he sticks on the board. He's not unique, too, so you can have multiples. Auto, when this card is played with Overwhelm or Dark Overwhelm, you could draw 1 card and choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and send it to the warp. Just spot removal, send it to the warp. Getting rid of cards to the warp, whether it's board or hand, is huge. Hand destruction has always been very, very strong in the game of Dragon Ball Super, but hand destruction to grave or to drop is much different from hand destruction to warp. So it's definitely something to keep an eye out for sure. And obviously when he attacks, also your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and sends it to the warp. So the turn he's played, not only are you getting rid of one of their battle cards and sending it to the warp, but you're also warping a card out of their hand when he swings, and he's a 30k body. So, it's definitely something your opponent's going to have to deal with. The longer he stands on the board, the more value you're going to get. We're playing 4 Beyond All Limits. This card is just really good. It's an Overwhelm for 6, no energy cost. He's a 30k attacker. When you play him using Overwhelm, you can choose a battle card in your warp between 3 and 7 to add it back to your hand. Just want to make sure I'm reading that right here. Energy cost 1 black battle card, energy cost 3 and 7, add back to your hand. So it gets back your thwartings, it gets back your Demigras, it gets back your Xeno Gokus and Vegetas, it gets back your SS4 Bardock or Mass Saiyan, as you can see towards the bottom of the page here. So there's a lot of different targets that you'll be able to grab with this Beyond All Limits. My favorite target to grab is thwarting, but I also like grabbing the Brainwash No More, which is the next card we're going to go over. We're only playing 1 Brainwash No More, so putting this guy into the warp and then essentially having a way to grab it back so you can mitigate, double strike, triple strike, all that type of damage is really nice. I don't think more than 1 is necessary. You could probably get away with siding another one, but I think 1 is just enough for Brainwash No More. We already talked about Trunks. 3 thwarting. Card is unique. No reason to play 4. You see it plenty of times. This guy is just disgusting. 1 energy, Union Fusion from Warp, so you can send back X amount of targets. You have 1-drops, you have super combos and Vegetas, and you have 30k targets as well if you need to do that. get him on the board. He's a 25k double striker for 1 energy, sticks on the board until your opponent gets rid of him. And also, when he swings, you can choose one of your opponent's better cards and send it to the warp. So again, more spot removal in combination with Demigra and thwarting. That's just like the 1-2 punch that you kind of want to get out. If it's possible for you to thwarting on turn 1, go ahead and do it, because you're just going to accrue so much value from this guy. It is very rare to do that turn 1, unless you're overcommitting like crazy. But I've gotten the sweet spot getting thwarting out on turn 3 or turn 2, and then either follow it up with a Demigra or having already established a Demigra. So that's pretty much how you want to play it if you want to go linear that way, just because the cards are just so powerful. Then we're playing 4 of each Fighting Spirit, 4 Goku and 4 Vegeta. These are just names, really. I mean, Goku was given the unique treatment, so I mean he's not as effective as he used to be, but you still want to max out on 4, because at worst he's a 1-drop that's going to get you a life to help yourself awaken and put more pressure low to the ground. But he's also a fusion target for thwartings and for your 2 of Fearless Fusion that we're playing. So it's one of those things that you want to facilitate different lines of play. If you want to awaken as quickly as possible, then you're going to want to get one of these guys out turn 1, because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be in awakening range by turn 2 unless your opponent is actively hitting you. And for the most part, they're not going to want you to get to that manageable total to where you can control your awakening. So you have to facilitate it some other way, and that way is by self-awakening with your True Fighting Spirits. We already talked about Fearless Fusion. The guy's great. 16k blocker, gets rid of a battle card, send it to the warp 4 or less. I mean, what else can you say? I mean, more spot removal, more reactive defense, another fusion target from warp, so it's never really dead. And worst case scenario, you can always charge it. SS Bardock the Tenacious. I talked about this card a very, very long time ago in one of my Tech Talk videos as being like the black flying Nimbus. This card doesn't come up that much. Same reasoning that I play him at 1 as Brainwash No More. You can always get it back with Beyond All Limits, but this is like a point of no return card. Like, if you feel like you're not going to kill your opponent, or if your opponent hits you with a floodgate and you've committed to board and you can't go wide, you definitely want to play this guy so you don't get blown out on the clapback. It doesn't happen too often if you play your cards right, but it is a nice little backup plan to have, and he's just an awesome looking card. Like, who can argue with that artwork? And then my spicy little tech, I guess you can call it, we're playing 1 of each of the SS4 Goku and Vegeta prepping for fusions. They do different things, but essentially they're just 30k beaters for 1 energy. If you play a True Fighting Spirit turn 1, you swing with it, you take your life, you do whatever it is you have to do, and for some reason your opponent doesn't answer your 1-drop, on your following turn, you can swing again with your 1-drop, and then go ahead and Xeno Evolve into a 30k body for 1 energy, and now you have your fusion target in warp for your thwarting play. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. You're not playing any skillless cards in this deck, so you don't essentially benefit from their autos, but Goku is a 30k blocker at worst. And again, these are additional 30k swings that can also be used as fusion fodder for thwarting from the warp, because they have matching power being 30k. Remember, Union Fusion, both battle cards that you use have to have the same power. We're playing 2 Super Kamehamehas. It's just a really good counterplay for black. We're playing 1 Further Instruction Champa, and my spicy card of choice to round it up at 50 here is SS3 Bardock, breaking free from the mask. I've never really resolved this guy. He's just there as like my 50th card because I didn't know what else to put in. Obviously, you can make arguments for like another Demigra and a couple of other things, but he's my 50th card. If I get him off, great. If not, who cares? You can search him off of Beyond All Limits because he's a 7-drop. You can always charge him if you need to, but he's a double strike for 30k that you can play for 4 energy if you have 15 or more cards. 15 or more black cards in your warp, which is not impossible. And he has a neat effect. I mean, auto once per turn, you can add 1 card from your life to your hand. When your opponent activates a counterattack skill on an extra card, negate that skill, and you use it at counter timing. So essentially, it's a counter for black in body form. So you're paying 4 energy for it. Swift Retaliation Cooler costs 3 and only gives you a 15k attacker, whereas this costs 4 in counter form and can give you a 30k double striker. And then once per turn, activate main. If your life is at 1, you can switch this card to active mode. So if you take yourself down from 2 to 1 with the counter skill, you can go ahead, restand him, and then attack again for another 30k double strike. But this is where I'm at right now with the list. I, by all means, do not think this is the final version of the deck. I am tweaking here and there. I don't see a lot of different pieces to add in from set 16. I think if you're going to go in on black in set 16, you're either going full on Xeno Gogeta or maybe Crimson God Trunks or, Super Saiyan God Trunks. But this is definitely something to tool with. Deck's pretty cheap. Most of these cards are, a couple bucks. I think the most expensive card in this deck is probably... Thwarting just got reprinted. Your secret rare, obviously, but if we're not talking secret rare, your most expensive card is probably going to be Demigra. If you're not playing the Anibox foils or the Anibox alternate arts, that's probably going to be your most expensive card, and then maybe Fearless Fusion. So I think Fearless Fusion is sitting around like $4 or $5 on a TCG Player right now, so that's pretty nuts. But that's pretty much the deck. I'm gonna put them on the shelf for a little bit. I'm not gonna be playing too much these next couple of weeks because pre-release is this coming weekend, and then we're going to go ahead and start tinkering with set 16 stuff. But stay tuned for Friday. For those of you who are participating in pre-release events, my video on Friday is going to break down like what leaders you should go after if you're playing sealed. That's going to give you the best chances of winning the event. So let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and please hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with everything No Counters, No Combos. We really do appreciate the support, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Be there or be squared.